Good
After
evening, Orit. Lovely
good
to see you. How
evening. Lovely to see you too. Let me just make this in full view. Oh, I think it is in full view, right? Okay.
I'm fine with mine. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a new venture for me. This
Yeah, me too.
podcast that is talking about something so relevant to my life and so important in modern society.
Yes.
Because I think what we have discussed before and what you want to talk about and what we're going to discuss are matters of honesty in politics, honesty in public discourse, so that we can get to some sort of foundation where people can actually have a rational argument that is not overburdened with emotion or hatreds or brainwashing, but just talking about what we know to be the truth.
Yes. But how about we'll take a step back and just say first, introduce ourselves and say a few words about ourselves. So my name is Orit, and this is our podcast. We're hoping to have different interesting guests along the way. It's about politics, not just, but mainly about Israeli politics, not politics, but the events that are happening in Israel. It all boils down to politics at the end of the day, but politics translate to religion and then, and so forth. Um, So I can go ahead and start, Danielle. We met, by the way, Danielle and I met in Tel Aviv at a
Yes.
hostel in, what was it, 3 weeks or a few weeks after
I arrived
your
October
seven.
29th.
Okay.
So, um, so yeah, my name's Daniel. I'm based in England. I met Orit when October 7th happened, 2023. I couldn't take my eyes off the news. I couldn't pull my head away. I couldn't think of anything except the terrible pogrom that I was witnessing and the fallout of that. And I went to volunteer, which was really volunteer to help to what I ended up doing, picking tomatoes and packing food parcels, which
But
was
we'll
fine.
we'll talk about that also, how important it was actually. It was actually important because we didn't have people to do it, and people still need to eat even in wartime. So it was
Uh,
it was very important. We didn't have hands that will, help with the picking. So yeah,
I
everything like is helpful.
I was very touched by how responsive everyone was and by how surprised a few people were that an English person would come over and
Yes.
leave the quietness of his own life. But my background is Jewish Indian, and that is where I belonged at that time. Uh, and I remember in our conversations, I mean, there were several of us around that table every evening talking in the roof garden about what was going on, about what we knew, about what we didn't know, being informed by each other's expertise. That um, we all felt there was a lack of distinctive voices putting over Israel's arguments in the wider world.
Yeah.
We knew why. We knew that there were certain terrible things that they had to do and had to get on with, and the politicians were all thinking about those things, not the least terrible news of the hostages. Not the least that we were facing enemies who wanted to destroy us completely, and were getting closer every day to the power to do so. But we felt that there were commentaries about vile calumnies on Israel
Yeah.
about what we were doing, and it wasn't we were fighting a war. It was the deliberate eradication of a people, the very thing we have faced in history, and the very thing our enemies wanted to do to us, we were being told we were doing to them,
Yeah.
and it wasn't true.
Yeah. It's
And we
it's
couldn't
reverse
see
psychology, is the double standard. It's many other things.
Many other things. Yes.
yeah, we're upheld to, and they're not, for them, we can't find them accountable or responsible to any of their actions just because they're the crazy child that like cries, even though they are the sole, you know, sole people that are to blame for it.
I would never take away the pain of war.
Yes.
I would never argue that war isn't mass murder. Every war ever fought has been. What I would argue is that this is war. What you're witnessing, what you're seeing,
Yeah.
this is war.
Yeah.
This is how war has always been carried out by every country that's ever carried out a war, including all the Muslim countries who
Oh, yeah.
built an empire
I mean, you
over.
can, I mean, recent, day, like, I mean, in Syria, have you seen, like, how did that, like, I mean, the poor people who've been decades and decades in, like, I don't know how far underground, like, isolated, they gone crazy, they don't forgot how to speak, they have no sense of themselves or reality. Those poor people that has been abused by the regime that had political or diplomatic relations with a lot of different countries. And what does the European countries do now? The first thing they do, Austria, I think, was the first one to do it, to they revisiting their all their Syrians refugees visas and status, and they're looking back into sending them back to Syria since there is no regime anymore. And my second question is why? If there's a group of people who so is providing and supporting and improving society, the society they live in, I don't think somebody would want them to go back to where they came from. They would also know how to integrate. They would also know how to adjust. They would also know how to take the local manners and behavior and regulations and policies, which they don't. And I'm taking Syria as an example just because it happened to be now. But obviously, we're talking, as I said, it's politics, but politics, at the end of the day, it's not politics, it's religion. And we're talking about a certain group of people that unfortunately is today's, I mean, not all of them, but the extremists of them, and you only need 10% of them to be extremists to be destroying the entire world. So yeah,
With Syria, I have two thoughts
yeah.
that are obviously linked, but first was that the figures that were coming out today that I saw were 350,000 dead in the civil war over 14 years.
Oh yeah.
350,000 dead. Where are the students protesting?
Oh
Where
yeah,
are the
right.
campsites? Where are the marches?
Yeah, what human
Nothing.
rights activists,
Yeah.
so-called
And
human rights
Sudan
activists.
and
Oh my God,
Assad
I can't take
apparently
this. It's like they are,
Assad made a speech at some stage talking about our humanitarian
yes.
attitude and our war crimes. Yeah.
I want those people who went into the campuses, what is it, Columbia campus, and like, tried to whatever they did there, or those different like, Ivy League university students. I
Mm.
want to see them doing their, ranting and protesting now. They're not, it's non-existent because they don't really care. They only care about, and that goes back to what how you initially started this conversation, to the truth.
And
And the
the
truth is that they're anti-Semitic.
the
That's
truth
what
is
it
that
is.
it
They
has been
don't
building up.
care
Yeah.
about, they do not care an inch, an ounce about those people. They wouldn't, they wouldn't live in those places for a second. that's the double standard that we were also talking about. So it's kind
Of
of like
course.
it's people are so fake. It's
Yeah.
fake and
It
hate,
does take a long
fake
time
hating and
to
like ignorancy. It's a dangerous combination.
it takes a long time to build up that kind of hatred. I mean, they've been working at it for decades. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that we have been accused of having a Zionist media, having the ear of all the politicians. Yet we haven't been preaching for 30 years to kill every Arab, to
Yeah.
kill every Muslim. Then they're not protesting that, they're
Mhm.
protesting us.
Yeah.
Um, but the sheer lack of humanity of the situation in the powers that be was really brought home to me this afternoon
Mhm.
because Turkey is opening up one of its
Yes.
old places for everyone to go out that hasn't been open since 2013. But the one that was open, the border crossing, people are walking. Syrians are walking in their hundreds. There's a few soldiers there. Does nobody think that they should provide them with a bottle of water each? I mean, they're walking back to their country. They're refugees. Is there nobody there saying, do you need a packet of food whilst you go? Because you're going back. We don't know what you're going back to. It's all chaos. So the powers that be can't even think of that. Their humanity only stretches to numbers, numbers of people, the numbers they want to get rid of. They've got 3 million refugees from Syria and they don't want any of them. That's
Yeah.
partly what Turkey was involved in. But all these other countries, as you've just mentioned, Austria, France, Germany, they're
Yes.
all longing for the Syrians to leave because, in a way, what's happened is it will take the pressure of the left socialist
Yes.
leaning powers from the right wing who
Yeah.
have grown up over the last 20 years
Yeah.
because of the
Of
refugee crisis.
immigration. Yeah.
So they're happy.
Hmm.
Goodbye. But they put a halt on all processes, and everybody who's got permission is going to be reviewed again.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to go back now, go back. The ones in the refugee camps, I heard the woman saying she couldn't go back, she didn't have the money yet.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure the government will finance it for her.
Well, I wonder. I
They
wonder.
will.
It's
You
it's
know
not
that
impossible.
Sweden is like offered, I think $30,000 per person in a family, for them to go back to their home country.
Yeah,
Not
you
then,
should.
not Syrian. It was before
Yeah,
everything happened. But
yeah,
it's just, they have them by the,
yeah. Of
they have a
course,
lot
but
of kids.
they want to go. A lot of them do want to go back. They've been longing to go back. They have been had a very difficult time of it. But the Europeans are delighted. They're clapping their hands at this. The Turks who supported this Gulani man and everything that's happened, they're delighted too.
But they've been burdened into their financially, not just financially, but a lot financially into their societies. They haven't integrated, as I said earlier, they haven't integrated. They live in their own, like, gate, not even gated communities, but they have police doesn't go into their area. Like local police wouldn't go into their neighborhoods.
Yeah, okay. Well,
So
there should be no-go areas.
yeah,
This has been an ongoing problem sometimes in England with places, and the police say there is no-go area in the UK. It sometimes gets very difficult. There used to be hundreds of years ago, but we're supposed to be a bit more civilized now.
yeah,
Um, I still don't think governments know how to handle people. And I still don't think that this whole refugee crisis was because the people were running. It was because of what companies and country and other countries and outside influences were doing inside these people's countries that made them poverty stricken, refugees running from war, running from dictators, running from
yeah.
tyrants. And there will be more. This isn't the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't trust what's happening in Syria.
I don't
I
trust it either.
I
Yeah.
think that Galani, I think what I said before was they're not going to come into Syria saying we're going to go to Jerusalem next
Mm.
because they know they've seen for the last 12 months
Yeah.
what will happen. So they've gone in saying we're going to be kind to everybody, we're going to be inclusive. This is not the natural instinct of a jihadi.
Yeah, and
at all.
also the head of the rebels, his last name is Jalan or something like that. So he's originally from the Syrian Golan part,
Mm. Mm.
the Golan Heights. I have a feeling he would like to, try and get the whole the Golan.
I
Well,
I don't know how political these people think
give
because
them a few years.
I give they're not strategists outside of their religious belief,
Yeah,
as
but
far as I've ever seen them, and as far as I've ever heard them. But when Saladin, the great Saladin, was a junior officer, so he was under someone else's authority. He was barbaric.
yeah.
When he was told to go into a town, he went into a town, killed everybody. That's what he was told to do. He did it. But the moment he got power, he became the great Saladin, the man who wouldn't do what the Crusaders had done and wouldn't do what he was told to do when he was a junior officer. He went into Jerusalem, didn't touch a person
Yeah,
when
but
he got.
with they say with age come wisdom, but not it's up to a certain age, and then it's like it changes again,
Jesus,
like
again.
like
That's
like
possible.
boogie alone. Oh my God, we have so many of them. Like they're
Yeah.
we say in Hebrew, um, their older years are ashamed for the younger years, you know.
Ah, so is
Because
that
they
a
were
bit
so
like?
heroic in their younger years, and then they do or say this like stupid stuff in their older.
Is that it's like David and Solomon writing the Psalms and the Proverbs as they got older,
Yeah.
not doing that kind of thing? Okay, yeah, I understand. Well,
Yeah,
it
so
might be. It might be. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was? But I don't
I
trust it.
hope so. I mean, we can pray, but I don't hold my breath. Just think it's the same. It's the same lady with a different hat.
Yeah, yeah,
Different.
yeah. No, I absolutely understand. I
Yeah.
do worry that I know why the IDF has been asked to bomb those places and to get rid of as many armaments as
Oh
they
yeah,
can.
they
But I do,
do. They're demolishing every piece
yeah,
of
which I
property
worry that
that they
they
have with ammunition and
yeah.
everything. They wouldn't leave them anything.
Well, I don't want them to go too far because it will become an argument for them to say, look, Israel is trying to destroy Syria.
No, no, no,
Um,
no. We're very accurate. Israel is very accurate in their aiming.
but I think, yeah, I know exactly why
And
they're doing
and
it.
it's possible also that everywhere under Syria, you can find ammunition. So
And yeah, yeah, this is another thing. I mean, I saw this years and years ago where all this ammunition swamping these places,
yeah.
very little of it is actually made in the countries that are using it.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
It's
but years
Russian
and years
made
ago,
mostly.
I saw a program on Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan shares a mountain range with Pakistan, and those villages up in the mountains of Pakistan are a law unto themselves. And what this man showed was that you could take almost any gun to the metal workers of these villages. Didn't matter how sophisticated it was. And this is going back 25, 30 years. And they could reproduce it
Hmm.
sitting there with bare feet and a little treadle and whatever it was, gas projectiles, bullets, and they were making them like small industries, hundreds and hundreds of these people, and all those arms were going straight into Afghanistan. Uh, you know, I I find that the arms trade uh, is very insalubrious and I don't like it, but I understand why some countries have it. And I was quite pleased when Netanyahu said, if it gets any more difficult getting armaments from the outside world, we're going to have our own armaments factories.
Yeah.
I quite understand.
Israel is the leading is one of the leading countries in the defense industry, meaning that we have all the, cutting edge technology, um, for a reason, obviously, because we need to use it on a daily basis, unfortunately. at the same time, it's because we have brilliant minds. But
I
we are constrained to the US in many ways. And that's something that we need to revisit, and we need to, I think we need, in one part, we're starting to see the, how do you say, the not drifting, but the separation. Because we're starting, if you take, for example, the Iron Dome, right? Beside the fact that it's all like, defensive by itself. And I don't think we should be defensive. I think we should be more of like, I'm telling you, don't do it. If you do it, or if you dare to do it, I'll just attack. I think that's the approach that should be. But Israel has a different approach for decades now, and it's more a defensive one. So that's why we have the Iron Dome. And the Iron Dome is like a very like great technology. We have 10 minutes. It's a
sorry.
great technology, but now they have developed, and it costs a lot of money, because it's a missile. It's a lot of money. So they developed a laser that can replace it. And when you have a laser, you cut like 90% of the costs. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's going to be like not far ahead. It's also going to change. So it will allow Israel to be independent in that sense, and not dependent on the US. And that will give us a lot of freedom to do and to act as we wish within the Middle East. Because the reason that we're not doing everything, I'm just going to say that we're not doing everything that we want to do, it's because of Biden administration.
I think Israel's done an amazing job.
Yeah, but we've lost a lot of soldiers.
But that's always going to happen.
Yes, but it could have been in a different way. Could have been
I mean, the
different.
urban warfare thing, I do get.
It could have been different.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure I can quote soldiers who would say if it had been the Americans, they'd have just carpet bombed the whole of Gaza.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's also like they give, well, they're providing food, they're providing like so many things. Come on, Syrian, like you said, they didn't even give them like water crossing the border. And we're feeding them. And it's not, we know they're giving them food, but it's not even going to the, you know what? Even if it would have gone to those like people who are also co-conspirators, who also like a lot of them, because they're all cheering and like being happy, and like they were like hiding hostages, and they were supporting the Hamas actions in October 7 and after, and now, and the Hamas takes the food for them and sell it to his people at a rate, like a crazy prices. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the Americans, we wouldn't do that. I think. So, and that would have put more pressure, and the people would actually help the Israel, government in order to throw over Hamas.
I think that it's quite interesting that the humanitarian services that have been in Gaza have a lot to answer for that they haven't owned up to.
Wait, I'm sorry, but one last thing. Did you hear that the UK is going to finance UNRWA now? Oh my God.
But they said that before this latest report came out, that 28 of the 300 odd schools in Gaza were actually run by Hamas operatives.
And we already know that. Yeah, exactly.
and yeah, we already know that it wasn't 19, it was hundreds.
And the schools were like, okay, the schools were used as a shelter or for their all their ammunition and supply.
So I had this conversation with friends here in the UK, and I said, just imagine for a second that you're a French unit or you're an American unit after D-Day, and you have to take this French town. And right down the street, at the end of the street, is the police center, above which there are two apartments. So it's a three-story building. And in the basement, there's an 88 with a German detachment that has complete view of the entire street. You can't get a tank up it because they will destroy it. You
Mhm.
can't send your men up it because you're going to lose dozens. So what do? You call in a Typhoon, which was an American jet that had missiles on it, one of the first. It flies over and it blows that police place and the 88 to pieces. You don't know when you call in that Typhoon that there are any families living above in those two apartments. You've got no clue at all. But that's what you do in a war when your men are more important and your objectives are more important than
Oh,
any other consideration. Consequence of this is that de Gaulle had to make a statement. So many French people were dying who were civilians that he had to say, if this is the price we have to pay, we pay it. At the end of the war, when they started totting up the numbers, 400,000 French civilians died.
wow.
Now, they were not all resistance fighters that the Germans
Yeah.
got hold of, and they were not all tortured by the Germans. Hundreds of thousands were killed by the Allies. This is war.
And you
This is
remember
what.
what we do. Like that's another thing. Like I think we only have like 2 more minutes, but I'll just say to some, like just a final note. The Israeli military sends notes and tell them to get off the houses. Like we do above and beyond. We're telling them like
Yeah,
you have 48 hours, you have 24 hours,
yeah.
whatever. We do so much. And you have to understand also urban fighting is so different. It's very unique. It's
But
so different, and it exactly goes to what you said before. It's just like it's war.
it's war,
It's war.
and the journalists, the international journalists, are not honest. Oh, they bombed the hospital, but they don't show you the pictures of the Hamas people in the hospital. They don't show you underground the hospital, which was a command center. They just say you've killed 30, 40, 50 people in the hospital who were all patients.
Yeah,
And they don't go any further. And this is unfair.
yeah,
War is unfair in many respects, but
it is.
journalism should not be unfair, ever.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I will leave to say the day, to see the day, but I think we'll wrap it up because we have
Okay.
like 1 more minute.
All right. I will see you next Thursday.
Yeah, maybe before we'll see, maybe on
Well, we can always
Friday.
talk, but
Yeah.
the next podcast is due next Thursday. Okay. It was
Yeah.
lovely
No, I
talking to
mean,
you.
no, we might do a podcast earlier. We see. Let's, I'm
We
starting
might.
to
Okay.
like this, so we'll see.
Okay. My blessings to you and your husband and your family. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.